So, yeah, broadly speaking, yeah, you're bang on in a sense of there's two ways to read religion, basically. And if you want to put it in two buckets, there's the type of religion which promises to fill the lack, to get rid of it. So, and religion does that in one of two ways. You got religions of hedonism, and they promise that you can have wholeness, completeness. You can get the thing that will make you happy and complete and joyful in this life or the next. And then there's religions of nihilism that say that you can get rid of your desire entirely, and so no longer desire, and be caught up in the anxiety of desire.
Can you give some examples of those?
Monks, right?
Yeah, that's very, I think the best way.
Well,
is
what's the
almost
hedonist example?
So Western religions tend towards hedonism. So in other words,
Joel Osteen prosperity gospel thing.
Yeah. But so and various forms of Christianity will tend towards, like, you can get the object of your desire either in heaven or you can get it now on earth, prosperity gospel. Eastern religions tend towards religions of nihilism. So they tend towards get rid of your desire. So, think of Zen Buddhism, Westernized Buddhism, etc.
Sure.
So there's exceptions to both sides, but you can broadly see the two tendencies.
Yeah. So another way to say it is, like, Eastern religion says you're going to be happier if you can get rid of those desires, where Western religion says, here's how you can fulfill all those desires
and be happier.
Yeah, be happier. Exactly. So my heart is restless until it finds its rest in you, as Augustine. So you see that notion that your desire can be fulfilled, and the other is your desire needs to be abolished. Now, and in contrast to those, there's what's called the religion of the absurd, which I'm a fan of. But that if we put those in one bucket, then the religion of the absurd is where the idea that you rob the lack of its sting. The idea is not that you get rid of your desire, but you get rid of the negative dimension of your desire. You're able to enjoy the struggle of life. So it's not getting rid of it and it's not fulfilling it. It's somehow finding your place within it. And I would say that this is what I would call radical theology or pyrotheology. And can I give you one reading of the Garden of Eden that will show this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've got, it basically is an Oedipus story in a way. In Oedipus, by the way, you've got this kid wants to sleep with his mum, doesn't know it's his mum, right? But he's cursed with this thing. He's going to have sex with his mum. His father gets in the way. He kills his father, sleeps with his mother, and it's a disaster, right? Now Freud liked this story because in a way the mother is the symbol of wholeness and completeness, returning to the womb, oceanic oneness, right? So Oedipus wants to get back to oceanic oneness with the mother. The father is what gets in the way, the law. He kills the father, gets what he wants, and it's a disaster, right? So it's a basically be careful what you wish for story, right? The story, the Bible starts with a similar type of story. Adam and Eve walking in a garden, right? Then there's a prohibition, and behind the prohibition there's a fruit tree. You eat of this fruit tree, you will be like God, which means you will lack the lack. You will be whole and complete because God is whole and complete, right? And then what happens? They break through the prohibition. They get the fruit that they think will make them whole and complete. It's not a blessing, but it's a curse, right? So the radical reading of this is to say that right at the beginning of the text, right, you have this desire to be whole and complete by getting object A, the apple, right? Let's say it's an Apple computer, right? You get the Apple computer, you'll be whole and complete. You break through the prohibition, you save up the money, you get the object, and it doesn't satisfy you. And in the biblical story, there's the serpent. The serpent is the one who promises you can be whole and complete. Just eat that fruit. Freud calls that the superego. It's the voice that's within you saying, if only you're nicer to your mum, you'll be whole and complete. If only you get that, if only you have sex with more people, you'll be whole and complete. If that voice, and we think we have to obey the voice. Now, I would say confessional religion is satanic. I didn't mean that in a jokey way, but in the sense of it's the voice that says you can be whole and complete. It's listening to the voice and going, if only you get here, then everything will be great. Grace is the technology that exorcises that voice, that says you don't have to get anywhere. Now, you brought up a very good objection.
Yeah,
so do you want to do the objection?
So the argument is, well, you're already there with grace. You don't need to to take the rosary beads and do the appropriate prayer or do the particular task or adjust your behaviors so that you do X, Y, and Z in order to be more godlike or Jesus-like or whatever the analogy is. And I guess my question or the argument, I was having this argument with my wife recently because I think the thing that we talk about is you are already there, you're already accepted, you're already whatever is. What if you're just behaving like a total piece of shit? What if you're being a bad person, an evil person?
Which some people are. Like they can look in the mirror and say, yeah, you're evil, and that's what you do.
And my rebuttal to that is like, it seems to me that you would need to change those behaviors in order. You should have to change certain behaviors if you're behaving in a way that is not just bad for the greater good, but bad to other people and bad to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the response. Funnily enough, this mimics a thing in the Bible where Paul says, we get rid of the law, but then if you get rid of the law, then are you not going to sin more, right? So there's this thing and it's also in Freud, is this question of surely our guilt and surely our desire to change is what helps us to change. If you get rid of that, then people will just go crazy. But the argument is this. So funnily enough, people think, for example, that repentance comes before forgiveness, right? So that's the natural way, is you say sorry and I say it's all right, don't worry about it. Funnily enough, some people say that one of the only innovations that Jesus had in terms of morality, which is just quite standard morality, is that it's switched around. There's forgiveness without repentance, and actually it's the forgiveness that leads to the repentance. So weirdly, I say to you, you've done something bad, you've been arrogant asshole to me.
Yep.
And then
commenting on your YouTube videos.
Exactly. and you're all defensive. You're going, I didn't do anything wrong. I think your stuff is rubbish. I'm just letting you know. And then I turn around to you and I say, listen, mate, it's okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And then you go, oh, yeah, no, maybe I was a bit of an asshole. I'm sorry. Yeah. Right? That's an example of, and so this is what Freud, so here's a clinical example. This woman who's sleeping around, and it's a true clinical example. She feels guilty. She's always going out the weekend, having sex with people, worried about getting sexually transmitted infections, and she knows that this is a damaging lifestyle to her. She feels guilty about it, really guilty. And she's at least going, well, at least I feel guilty about it. That stops me doing it every weekend. Sometimes I feel so guilty I don't go out and whatever. Right? So she's going, at least I have the guilt.
Interesting.
Right? But then during the therapy, the guilt begins to diminish. The therapist helps her go, like, don't feel guilty about what your parents think, what you think, what your culture thinks. What happens is, as the guilt diminishes, so does the desire to transgress the guilt. So what you discover is that the activity is actually generated by what it looks like it's opposing. So weirdly, the law generates the desire to transgress the law. The name for this is love, by the way. Love is a form of overcoming the law, not by abolishing it, but by taking its prohibition away. This doesn't work for everybody, by the way, but in general, the more people try to change, so say you're an alcoholic, and you, through sheer force of will, and you're good, sheer force of will, you stop being an alcoholic. If you haven't experienced grace, you'll then get addicted to Diet Coke, to CrossFit, to tidy in your house obsessively. Right? It'll come out in different ways.
But there are better things to be addicted to.
Yes, absolutely. And CrossFit's better than alcohol. Well, I don't think so, but cleaning your house is probably better. So that's very true. However, grace is the experience in which you feel this sense of which you can accept yourself in your being, and I would say that's when the real change can happen. So in AA, there's 12 steps, but step 0 is just being in a room that completely accepts you for who you are. I would say that's the best mechanism for change.
Let's talk about.
Hold on, one second. So about the person who is just a piece of trash. Right. I would say that person who is evil, they actually are acting still based on the lack. Like there's something that they're missing that they, when they act evil, they feel like they're filling that lack, and so in a sense, like there's still there's still a lack there that they're trying to fill, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
This is the Breaking Bad thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's you've seen the series Breaking Bad.
yeah, it's
Okay, so
I was very late, by the way. I watched it years after it came out. It's very good.
Me too.
I just finished it with my wife like a few weeks ago.
oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
I broke my back a year ago, and I watched it then because I had nothing to do but lay around on my back.
Breaking back.
Breaking back.
Anyway, like what you see there is an evil person doesn't become an evil person immediately after one change. It's a bunch of small sort of indiscretions and justifications, and it is at first the justifications actually make sense, and each individual justification even tends to make sense. It's a tiny leap each time until all of a sudden you're shooting someone in the face because, well, each justification led me to that place.
Yeah.
And so it's not just this immediate 180-degree turn. It's small pivots over a protracted period of time that lead to those bad behaviors. And I guess what I'm saying is when you look at someone like Walter White, who, if he wasn't the main character of that show, we would just look at him as an evil, terrible, awful human being.
Right.
You look at him and you're saying, well, he isn't enough. We shouldn't accept someone like Walter White,
Right.
Because we don't accept the behavior of a person like that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the difference is we can accept the person without accepting the behavior. Might be the line to toe there.
Yeah, and there's two. I'd love to make a distinction between two types of evil. And this is great. We could be here all day. So, but there's utilitarian evil. Let's call that badness. And utilitarian badness is what's called pathological, i.e., you do bad things because you judge it's going to, like you rob because you want money, right? You want it, right? And that's the evil that we understand. And but then there is, and this is the controversy, there's a form of evil that is non-pathological. Remember I talked about the categorical imperative, where you feel there's an ethical duty that you should do regardless of how good or bad it is. There are evil acts, the Marquis de Sade talks about it, that are acts that are non-pathological, i.e. you don't, like this Joker in Christopher Nolan's Batman, who isn't motivated by any selfish desire, so he burns the money that's given to him, so he does not care.
Right.
And that's a really interesting type of evil, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, where does that come from and how do we address that? And people don't even know that exists. Most people think that the only badness in the world is selfish badness, but there's selfless badness. There's badness where someone beats somebody up, even though they know they're going to go to prison, even though they know they're going to ruin their own life, and still they do an act that is destructive.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Joker because I was thinking about how most villains think they're the good guy. Like in the story, most villains, they have a very selfless cause. Oh, I'm doing this to save you. I mean, think about Thanos in Endgame. Like he was just trying to kill half of the people in the universe just so there'd be enough resources for everyone.
You know the one problem with Thanatos, or is it Thanos or Thanatos?
Thanos, yeah.
Is that he didn't go far enough. Right?
He should have killed everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a theory. Do you want to hear this for a laugh? This is great. So there's this philosopher called Ilyenkov. Ilyenkov was this Russian philosopher, and he was trying to figure out, with a variety of biologists, etc., what is the purpose of human life? Why does the universe create conscious beings? And is there a reason? And he created a secular kind of religion, and this is what it is. You'll love it. It's basically said that, right, entropy in the universe explodes and then it gradually dissipates until its energy is infinitely dispersed, right? Now there's a problem there, is that the universe then will come into existence and disappear, right?
Yeah.
But they argued that this is unlikely to have happened, as in it seems more likely that the universe either contracts and expands and basically infinitely is doing this. But how does it do that? Because to go back into the infinite singularity and then explode again, like that goes against the second law of thermodynamics, right? So they argued that the universe creates intelligence, and eventually we become so intelligent that we can create a technology that can reverse the second law of thermodynamics and bring the universe back into a big crunch so that it can all start again. So we are here to destroy the universe.